Welcome to the next episode of Higgs Cast Playing God, where we talk about random tips and other things related to GMing a variety of tabletop games in order to make the most out of your experience as a GM and bring out the most of your players. Tonight, we are talking about creating memorable and worthwhile NPCs. With me, as always, are Jesse Cromines.
Hi, hello.
And Xander Nolan.
Hey, man.
And I'm Nick, and we all know that. Woohoo. Alright, so with NPCs, there's a lot of factors to consider, because you can always just go straight into just a regular generic, he's a farmer out there. He has the most generic accent. He's got nothing going on about him. He's going to give you 5 silver pieces to go kill a dragon. Not a fair trade, but he's poor as shit and really needs that dragon gone. What we're going to talk about is how to make maybe even just that guy better than that. Something that the players will invest in and something that you can have fun playing. So what do you guys do when you want to make something that you really want to take care of?
To use that example of a farmer who is going to pay you to go get killed by a dragon, I typically, for my non-player characters, I will use... Well, first, I differentiate between different classes of non-player characters, but I'll get into that later when it eventually comes up. But for, like, the farmer, I would probably pick a stereotype that I'd see in a movie, and I would decide if I want to go with funny or sincere. And most times I like to go with funny. So in this case, I'd probably make him as unhelpful as possible. Or, like, have a bad lisp, or just something, like, tropey that makes him even slightly memorable, or even annoying. Like, because if everyone is just a vending machine for quests, it feels inauthentic. It doesn't feel real. So for that guy, I'd probably... Yeah, it's an MMO at that point. You're looking for question marks, not, and not, names. So I'd probably go with something dumb like, I don't know, his name is Barnard, and he talks like this. You're going to want to go on and get out about your... What do y'all want again? Dragon? Dragon, that's right. Y'all for the dragon. Okay, so I got 5 gold for a dead dragon. You want to do that? 5 gold? And that's it.
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
Like,
take it.
Like, exactly.
We're level 1.
Let's go
roll new characters.
Yeah, 5 gold, that may as well be a fortune. And so a lot of times I'll pick a stereotype and think of a name if I don't have anything prepared for the character. So for the farm example, that's what I do.
I actually have a different method of handling the Gray Blob NPC, as they've been called. And I picked this up from a GM's tip that was done on a separate site. But it's the 7 dwarf method. You take any one of these 7 dwarves, happy, grumpy, sneezy, blah, blah, blah. And then you take that, and then you assign a high, medium, or low-toned voice. And with just those 2 combinations, you have several different memorable-sounding NPCs that all you have to do is, like, when you can come up with it on the fly. Let's say sneezy and medium, so normal speaking voice. And his name is, whatever it is. He's it's like, no, it's just been a bad day. I don't have a lot of money, but excuse me. And you can just kind of fall into it, and that makes the character more believable, even though it's just random gray blob you guys decided to talk to for no reason, and then you just, you put in your notes, name, location, one of the dwarves.
Demeanor gross, because that's a standard thing for you, apparently.
I think that lends very well even to people who can't do accents, because I know we're all pretty decent at accents here, but some people who can't do voices or what have you, just even describing that they have the sniffles or like stopping, because you can fake sneeze. Like people can do that even without a voice. Like even if they give them some kind of quirk, it makes them just that much more memorable and really helps to have the character. Because it's like we gotta go back to the farmer. It's like, oh yeah, the one who's got the cold all the time, instead of like the farmer. What farmer? You know,
Which farmer?
You know,
yeah, exactly. That small note
into,
really separates.
That actually leads into the way that I kind of make NPCs. If I need to come up with something, especially just on the fly, that I'm just like, oh shit, they need to remember this guy. I need to remember this guy. What can I give him? And where Xander goes with some kind of trait like always sick, constantly syphilitic, I go more along the lines of having like an item. Maybe like that Draugr from the Pathfinder game. You always recognized him.
Yeah, with the sword, the upside down sword. Yeah. He's been a real asshole about that.
Yeah. Or a really good example.
And
Willie Stacks with the flannel.
That's right. He always wore different color flannel.
And in Shadowrun, see his thing. I don't remember her name, but I remember the leader of the anti-Shadowrun team. She was telekinetic, and she would just always have that up, and that was a thing that we could always notice. I'm like the girl in the blue who fucking makes shit levitate with her mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were also color coordinated. So even if I just described a group of like 5 people with black skin tight suits and blue accents, you're like, oh, it's them. This is annoying.
Yep.
We know who they are. Consequently, my phone case is actually black with the blue trim. And
then there was also when speaking of like kind of accents and giving something the one thing, just a single word could open up a few things, such as hello.
Oh God!
Who we're talking
like
about.
Salbert.
It was Salbert, the awakened water spirit, whatever. And there's I like that type of distinct dialect helps for when characters are otherwise very normal. Like in that case with Salbert, we knew exactly who he was, though he was extremely memorable in appearance, being a fucking turtle with a top hat and a monocle and a cyber deck and all this crazy shit. In my game, I have a character, or in the Tales of the Orient game I'm running for my players. There's a Coatl who is like the spirit of good, the angel on the shoulder type character who tries and help and guide them in the best way they can. And he wears and looks like a regular dude. He wears a brown kimono with a katana and a wakizashi, and he's got messed up hair. Super average. But the way he talks is so like childlike and innocent, and he'll talk like, "Hello, are you the Featherfall people? Oh, okay." And so all I have to do and convey to my girls that this character is he'll say, hello. And that supplements not having a very interesting looking or described character.
Well, it also shows, like, without having, especially a recurring character, you don't have to describe them every single time they walk in the room.
Right.
Even with the Galapagos tortoise, it's like the Galapagos tortoise enters the room, and then you're just redescribing every time. But if all you say is hello, or you talk like, oh, hey, guys, then they'll instantly be able to picture that in their heads.
Yeah. That's a really powerful statement if your characters have. Now, this would only be useful for reoccurring characters, but if they have that one kind of tropey thing, like Willie Stacks, hey guys,
hey man,
hey man,
hey.
So,
there's also another element, and I realized I do this with some of my characters, particularly the reoccurring ones. But it says this in the back of the Dungeon Master's Guide of the 5th edition D&D. And it says, again as well, if you're not exactly very good with voices or what have you, to use your hands. Like, use your face, use your hands, use as much as possible so that the image and the conversation can be portrayed. Like, one of my characters is a wandering troll who's a collector of magical items. And they know that he's in the room or has entered is because I'll close one of my eyes halfway and I'll like tilt my head and I look like a yes, hello, what are we going to be buying today? And like even when I was doing that voice, I had to do the face, and that helped them remember. And like stuff like that, like even just using your hands or like scrunching up your eyebrows or whatever helps make a very memorable character, and that's something I'll throw in every now and then.
Yeah, to bounce off that a little bit, I'm certain you all remember Mr. E, the Johnson from Shadowrun, who had the circular shades. And
Oh
at
yeah,
one point,
yeah.
I just straight up bought circular shades so I could just put them on and play.
I just wore, yeah.
Instantly knew who it was.
Yep.
Amazing
like,
getting into character as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Props are great for character, for getting into character and stuff.
That room is dark as shit though, so
It's
hard to see through those goddamn glasses.
Yeah, that room was always very poorly lit. That's one thing that's really helps, especially if you're playing a character that needs to be very serious and not break and like give a deep sense of atmosphere. And if getting a prop or doing a voice helps with that, it really makes it memorable. Like I'll save a particular accent. Like whenever I pull out a dragon, it's fucking intense. Whenever you're dealing with a dragon, it has to be memorable. You have to know what the scale is that you don't think you can take it. And for this green dragon that I played, I had this like deep Scottish accent that I never used for anything else before. And also, it's a fucking Tales of the Orient game, so no one's Scottish. And I just kept that voice and kept it in, and it was this very intense roleplay moment that needed to be, because if I didn't deliver, it would not have been good. And I could have done that with a prop, or I could have done that with sunglasses, and I fucking, like, that was brilliant, honestly, because it kept you in the pretty serious roleplay that it was, and it also let us know exactly who it was.
Yep, that's true.
It is.
Even just a couple days ago, I have my own shitty Scottish accent. I'm not good at it, but I had to reintroduce King McFire, as you remember.
Oh yeah,
meeting up with him back for a fucking long ass time, and I just did the Scottish accent. I didn't even have to describe who I was mentioning, even though they hadn't seen him in it's been like 15 or so games at this point since you last interacted with him.
Yeah, you didn't have to describe him to Kenton or Mara, and then like it was like, oh, we know who this guy is. We're going up and talking to him, and then you described him for the two people that hadn't met him before, the two new players. So that was a real kind of interesting thing. It's like to see the dynamic between characters that had seen this guy before and characters who had not.
And I think that's actually a very, very beneficial for the scene, because it makes it, in that instance, analogous to the characters and the player's experience being as, like I said, as analogous as possible. Because Xander and Jessica knew the character, whereas the two new players and also the characters they were playing didn't know him. And so it gave them like a slight benefit, a slight familiarity, a slight leg up, as it were, and then the subsequent, description lends to, okay, he's more familiar now, but not as familiar as, as it is for these two characters. And stuff like that, especially when planned very well, can be a big impact.
Yeah, it also creates an interesting dynamic that lends more realism, because people get introduced to people that they don't know through their friends all the time, and when they greet someone, it's hey man, how's it going? Oh, this is my friend, blah blah blah. Hey, blah blah blah. It's more organic.
Yeah, it's like the Lando Calrissian intro. It's like I know a guy.
Oh yeah,
he's out here, and it's like you.
Yeah,
son
Lando,
of a bitch.
the Lando system.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I will say is we've been talking about how to make memorable gray blobs and how to do voices and have them be memorable themselves, the stand-in, long-lasting characters. But I think one of the most difficult things, and I actually wanted to present this and talk about it because I don't actually know your guys' stance on it, is how best to act as the character. And that's one of the things that I'll do is once I decide if a character is going to be long-standing or if they're going to be staple or a gray blob is just given importance because the PCs are dumb, is I'll pick 3 words that describe them. And for example, I have a gold dragon who is the leader of basically the New York Stock Exchange, but that's all gone to shit because it's all war. And her descriptors are serious, to the point, tsundere as fuck. And tsundere as fuck meaning, I like you, but I'm never going to admit it. And with those 3 things, I can basically jump into any conversation, no matter what they're going to say to these characters, and have them react the way they should and need to. Because even if the character's memorable and isn't, acted out well, or is a total pushover to the demands of the party, then they're not, they're a vending machine. They become a vending machine for information or resources the same way gray blobs become vending machines for or poorly acted NPCs become vending machines for quests and gold and what have you. It has to feel like a conflict. Even the smallest thing, like negotiating assets from an ally, need to have some conflict to it. Be like, we need the legendary sword Excalibur. We know we have it in your hoard. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not going to give it to you. And blah blah blah. But the tsundere as fuck comes in and that blah blah blah. So I'm curious to see how you guys handle stuff like that. How you keep the character in your mind, as it were.
Oh, okay. For a second, I thought you were talking about, like, right at the beginning, about how they, like, acted when they weren't in the scene, like what their background actions were.
Well, that too.
All right. Well, the way I handle it is, for every game I run, I have this big ass like document that has the characters broken down into how they basically align themselves with the player characters. I always break it down into the good, the bad, and the neutral. And then I'll have the name of whoever it is, and this document obviously gets longer and longer as the more random bullshit they pull into it is. And after their name, then I'll have like short descriptions of what their motivations are, how they act. Like I don't, I guess, simplify it as much as the 3-word thing that you do, but I'll have something like pretty catty in any interaction, doesn't like dairy products, or some kind of like minor personality trait that might come into play. That I've seen it happen before. Like with Willie Stacks, we'll go with him because he's a good one. His description is basically has a gruff voice, always wears flannel. It does not parlay at all with bug spirits.
Right, and the bug spirits thing came up once.
Yeah, so like it was an important piece because that provided a big conflict in play.
Right.
But
a very real, tangible conflict, yeah.
Right. I try to think of any NPC, regardless of whether it's an actual just regular human or as far along as a dragon, as like, how would this thing or person be if it was just a person? Like if it had its own life and the PCs were nowhere in sight.
Yeah.
If I was playing this game by myself like a loser, then what would it be like? Wait, actually, that's just writing a book at that point.
Yeah, right, that's actually that's one of the things I do and tell my players on the regular is I know exactly what all of these characters are doing and where they are, how they're interacting, and that helps make the environment very real. One of the and you're right, it is like a book. Like I was seriously thinking like I have a setting in mind and I'm like I might not run it. And I'm like I have to write a book then. That's what the fucking is. But one of the ways that I'll introduce that by having like the way characters act and live their lives is through sexuality, because everyone gets sex. They fucking understand it. Whether or not you're having lots of it or having none of it, you know how it works. You get it. You see the attractions. You've seen movies, yada yada. And like one of the most mind-blowing things I ever had happen to my players, even though it was totally like, casual, was these 2 characters had to be holed up in this bunker for this war effort. Basically, they were on a stakeout. And I thought to myself, would these 2 be sexually compatible? It's like, no, but they're bored, so they'll fuck. And then it came up, casually in a conversation after they hung out, and they're like, what? These NPCs? What? And that, that little thing made this dynamic, but it also let them see that not everything revolves around the party, and not as a way of taking away the hero complex of it, because that's what the fucking D&D is all about, but making the world feel very real.
Yeah. That's a good way to go about it. I haven't actually looked at the sexuality of an NPC before. It's just never really become an issue or came up as important at all. But that's a really good way of looking at that.
And that's actually a pretty big distinction about my game, is that and I don't know what this says about me or the kind of game I'm running, and I'm so insular, and I only know the game, because I don't play games with anyone else, other than the players in the game that I have now, is the two big elements of, American cinema and like pop culture and media are what? Violence and sex.
Yeah.
Boning and explosions.
Boning and explosions.
Boning and explosions.
Right. Where do I jizz? Do I jizz in the drink? Tell me where to jizz.
Well, Michael Bay does it both at the same time, I think.
Oh God!
He does. Every time he
boning the explosions.
And that's this is kind of veering off topic from NPC stuff, but this adds a layer of dynamic to the characters. In my game, violence, like every game has violence. That's what D&D is. It's killing dragons and shit like that. And like it doesn't innately have swearing or like blasphemy or stuff like that, because you're trying to usurp all this stuff. And it has no indication of sexuality at all, save for like procreation and descendancy. But in my game, I have sexuality. Like, these my players can date an NPC, or they can be seduced by other characters, and like all these different things. And it's because it is so Tales of the Orient, I wanted to make it as much like the bullshit anime it's all being inspired from, and make it as much a dating simulator as, like a Persona game would be. And so you have different elements of characters that way. And one descriptor for my character, or for a character I introduced, was, oh yeah, she's a lesbian. There you go. The red-headed lesbian that we saw at the tavern. Okay, there aren't many lesbians in this tavern. There aren't many redheads. That's the memorable character. Or like, the girl that hit on you at the bar, or the guy that hit on you in the bar. Bro, let me tell you, some of the most fun NPC interactions will be like homoerotic, awkward situations. Like those are the most fun, and that makes for small, memorable things. The problem there is that sometimes there have to be overlaps of those two things, and that's something that is very, 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 very touchy, and you have to like come to terms with whether or not you're going to depict in your game, and is the overlap of sex and violence. And I've only done that once, but even that then gave the character from that scene, more life and more this, like fucking she killed her attacker and all this other stuff, and she became very memorable and very defined from this one small event. So I think the systems you have in place in your game help shape the memorable, like basically the switchboard of the NPCs you have in your game, as much as, the voices you can do.
Yeah.
Because like I remember in Stars Without Number, Nick's character was extremely anti-slavery, where the character I was playing was from a race where slavery and indentured servitude was totally a thing. And like I remember a character that Nick interacted with, and it was, oh yeah, the museum art gallery loving guy who had 2 slaves.
No,
does not like that.
No.
Yeah, and it was the interaction with that element that helped define him a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, that character was so vehemently against it. She ended up becoming the second most wanted person in the galaxy because she unshackled an AI.
Yep.
My goodness. Well, to kind of steer back to the original topic, with the creation of NPCs, something that I like to do is the yes, yes, no, and then their function, goal, and plan.
The fuck is that first part?
The
Yeah, what
yes,
is
yes,
it?
no. The yes, yes, no is a basic understanding of like there are two things that if they were to be asked it, uh, generally they would say yes to it. It's like, do you like coffee? Yeah. Da 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 da. Like simple personality traits. Like some people don't like coffee, some people do.
Hmm.
It's something really really easy. And then a no is that hard line. Like, no, there is no way in hell you are going to convince me to eat Brussels sprouts. End of story. I will kill you. Like that. like the hard line. And then to follow their function. And I like to set these up in.
Hang on. Why is it called a yes, yes, no? Now you've distracted me, Nick. Why is it called a yes, yes, no? Why can't it just be called a yes, no?
Well, it's a
Or
yes,
no,
yes.
no, yes.
Yeah.
A yes, yes, no is two things that the character likes or enjoys or would agree with, and one thing that they are hard line, against.
So I get the concept, but why has
So-
it got to be like 2 yeses and 1 no?
Yeah.
I've found that it's a lot more organic for an NPC to have more things that they would like rather than things that they would not like, because it's sort of that way in real life. Most people will follow a certain thing that they will push toward things that they like and kind of push away things that they do not like. And in doing that, the things that you would most likely express would be things that you like. So when I say, hey, I like to play D&D, I also like video games, but I really don't like Brussels sprouts, we're staying away from the things that I don't like.
So let
but
me take
putting
a
it
swing.
forward.
Let me take a swing with this yes, yes, no. All right, I got a character. She's a rogue and a messenger. She likes not being around people. She likes not having to put up with their bullshit. She dislikes people. There we go. How'd I do?
I mean, that would
Got
that
fleshed
would
out already.
Or let's go back to that first farmer like Brendan Fraser or whatever. Is his new motivations like, okay,
Goddamn.
here's 500 gold, feed that dragon Brussels sprouts, and make him like it?
That's just how I do the basic. This is the character that I'm creating's personality type.
Do you write this down on a spreadsheet like Nick does?
Yes, I do.
Start writing my shit down.
That's a good idea. You should always write things down. That way, that way when a character says, "Hey, you remember that NPC we talked to 37 games ago? Yeah, what did he say?" I don't fucking know. Like, you gotta have that stuff written down.
That's when you go, fuck, I don't know.
Okay, see, that might be a little too many notes for me, because
Yeah.
I usually don't write more than like 2 sentences or so.
Yeah.
A paragraph if the character's really important.
Well, see, I put those things in a separate place. Like, I organize all of my NPCs by the location that they live in, and then where in that location they can be found. So, in Coultier, in the country of Nimen, in the city of Chelsea, you can find a tavern owner who runs a tavern called the Drunken Fairy, and his name is Rob. I do those things. That way, if they go back to that place, I then know what NPCs I already have to pull from, so that they're a little more easy to kind of keep going. But then separately, I have things I have planned, and then things that have happened, like a general synopsis of the episode. So, but that's off topic from
yeah,
NPCs.
I mean that's kind of a different thing. That involves like the storyline and plot points and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that the actual placement is I see, that's the thing. Maybe writing it down is too limiting for me, because one of the characters I have, we'll use the gold dragon that I was talking about earlier. If somebody asks, where is her name? She has a dragon-esque name, and it's very exalted. And she's called the Lady of the Market, or just called the Lady, because everybody knows who the fuck she is. It's like saying the President. If I don't know where someone is, or I didn't write it down, they're like, all right, well, we want to look for the lady. Where is she? And somebody stops and asks. I remember the three things. And it's,
Well, that's
straight
why
to
I
the
write
point.
down motivations rather than locations
Right.
for my stuff, because it's a
And
game
yeah,
with
exactly.
a
Yeah.
vast
'Cause-
world.
'cause-
People are gonna move, and
Yeah.
things are gonna happen. Like if a dragon sits still, unless it's sleeping for 1,000 years or some shit like that, it's gonna get up and do some shit. It's got business to attend to, treasure to hoard, whatever
and
it,
yeah,
shit it does.
that's like the Dave Chappelle thing. Do what a crackhead does. Got chocolate to eat, crack to smoke. Shit to do. And I'll use the descriptor to figure out where a character is. Like, if the character that they're trying to get in touch with is a raging homosexual and he's not at his house, he's probably out at a bar trying to get some. Like,
Probably.
maybe. Who knows? Take a guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess that kind of goes to the next step in the creation. It's the functions, then goals, then plans.
Mhm.
So I guess I kind of put more into that. Like for the location, it's great for like the name of this tavern that you guys went to twice, and you really liked the guy behind the counter. Who was he? For
Right.
stuff like that. For like really big NPCs,
Okay, yeah,
they're
that
gonna
make sense. I usually use location more as a basis for like what mannerisms might they start out with, because people growing up in
Right,
the same
what-
general location would have some similarities.
Oh yeah.
And that's actually something that it works pretty well for my game. Is it is Tales of the Orient, but there's also I have the setting of the Sword Coast of the Forgotten Realms in the same setting as I have, and they look wildly different. Much how Native Americans look different from Asian Americans. And so I'll describe someone as being the guy wearing Western style armor and the blonde ponytail. And they're like, okay, I got it. Or the very tall orc wearing Eastern style robes. And they're like, okay, cool, I got it. And so yeah, location definitely does come into it, and it's definitely key to keep into. But yeah, like you said, Xander, it's I don't. Like, he's wearing the most premier water-deep robe from the 3rd season 4 years ago with blue buttons. Like,
if he's
location
wearing
is-
those things, it's probably because
Yeah.
he's a fashion designer, and you need to remember those
Absolutely.
things.
Absolutely.
I have
You have to remember how many buttons.
I have an NPC I call the Foppish Elf, and he is a clothing designer, and he is amazing. I love the character. He's so much fun.
And see, that's the thing but here's the thing about that character is you just did that voice. What's going to be more memorable to the way you describe the character isn't the name you used, but the voice you used.
That is
And-
also true.
And I think the reason why I can get away with not writing things down, and it obviously doesn't work for everybody, because we're all great GMs and we all have our different methods. So what works and what doesn't. But I think
got
the
shitty
reason
memory.
why it works, right? And that's the thing is I have shitty memory as well. But like, if I have played out a character and described them well or given them enough quirks, and someone says, "What was the guy with the 2 ponytails?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, Yosuke, the Adventurer Guild manager. Yeah, I remember him." And I just described him as being a dude with 2 ponytails. He had fucking pigtails, but he made it look badass, and he was this elf. He had pink hair and pigtails, and
That's
like, I just remember
kind of
his-
badass.
I mean, it's kind of the big
Right, that's the thing
takeaway. Like, do whatever
Like-
works and is comfortable for you, and shit
Yeah.
like that. Like
and
one of the
it
ways.
certainly takes.
One of the ways I can also define NPCs, and I know you guys have seen this, is give them a role that is kind of contradictory to what people would expect, because then when you introduce it later, they're like, "Oh, he's that one troll who has very high charisma." and
Yeah,
sells
fucking
used
exactly.
cars."
Exactly. I was just thinking about Big Jeffrey. Hey, welcome to Big Jeffrey's. Come on down, potentially get eaten by and enjoy Roscoe, King of the Everglades.
And that's kind of a good example of what started out as a stupid voice ended up as like a very important character to the story.
As a big key character, yeah.
Yeah. Um,
I went on to play him as a PC in your game.
Yeah. And
I bet that was interesting to
That was
to
super
watch.
fun.
great. It was awesome because it was a fucking gangster-themed Shadowrun game where it was just like, yeah, man, we're killing, shooting, stabbing
Getting
motherfuckers.
territory.
Yeah, getting turf, and he was the only actual professional. He's like, you guys are children. Oh, this is the worst.
Wait, so none of you
You
have
guys-
grappling hooks? We're about to go into a 6-story building. You need that.
Do any of you have any adhesive explosive devices? What, man? I got a grenade. You're a fucking child.
Cover it in
was
KY
it-
jelly. It'll be okay.
Yeah. No, that was a blast, dude. Big Jeffrey was great. And that also, especially if you're describing gray blobs. But that's the thing, is this can be very much the detriment if you want something to stay a gray blob. Like, if you just describe the scene and you give them too many interesting features, like if you say the guy behind the counter is a fucking gnome and he's standing on a stool to work his stuff, and every time he has to move down the thing is he has to move his stool, they'll be like, oh, I want to go talk to that guy. I'll be like, fuck, I don't, he's too interesting.
I didn't expect that. All he's doing is writing down a sign. Oh shit, I described a sign. Now they're going to want to know what that means.
Yeah,
God,
yeah,
what's it mean?
exactly.
Yeah, that's
I-
that's the detriment of when you'd like to describe things in enough detail to paint the picture, but you describe so much that now they're looking into shit you didn't expect them to look into.
One of the fucking things that killed me. There's a building, a blah blah blah, and it's got a sign written in Elven and this and that. What's the sign say? Fuck, I don't know. God, give me 2 seconds to think. Fuck. It says Happy Clam. There you go. All right, fucking building, Happy Clam, Elven.
I wanna
Says go the
in
fuck
there.
away.
I'm going in the Happy Clam. You didn't
Going
have
in the-
anything in there, but now you have to.
Now you have to make something. It's like the game Bastion. You have to make the ground in front of me, or else your game sucks.
But if you have Logan Cunningham's voice, then
Oh, yeah.
that narration would be worth
See,
it.
this all comes full circle because he did his vocal warm-ups reading the 2nd edition Monster Manual.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot
Well,
about
that's
that.
awesome. I didn't know that.
Dude, that's
Let me-
badass.
That is awesome.
Snapdragon is. Let me tell you what a cloaker is. A cloaker is a medium-sized aberration. That's more deep.
God. Well,
What can you tell me about the cloakers?
Anyway, the next thing that I kind of go to, trying to get back on focus, for me personally, is to describe their function, and I set functions in 5 categories from most important to least important. And I kind of stole your thing, Jesse, with the Gray Blob as being the least important, because I didn't actually have a name for those, but now I do, and that's great.
Thank you.
But the most important...
And I got
NPC.
that from anime. Because I fucking have great inspiration for my game from anime, and you always see low-budget animations with literal gray blobs in the background.
Oh, I never even like you read
Yeah.
you know that, but you don't ever like, that's how they saved money on animation.
That's the fucking it's the shittiest. But anyway, I sorry to interrupt. I just wanted you to know where that came from.
No, that's great. Now the most important NPC for any game, in my opinion, is the big bad guy, the nemesis. He's got to be your most finely tuned NPC, simply because his function is to drive the entirety of the story to its pinnacle. Without him or her being on point, it kind of loses a bit of momentum. The next most important is the informant, and that's only because they're the catalysts that move the story along.
Yeah, they're the channel info comes from. Yeah.
Yeah. The next is the mentor. This is the guy that a really good example of this is Baracus. He's a large-sized tiefling man who runs the Marilith
He
Academy.
fucked up the token and kept it that way.
Yep, I fucked up the token. So I fucked up the token because he seemed like he should be bigger because the size
I was about
of
to
this thing.
say, like a large-sized tiefling is just called an archfiend, bro.
Well, see, here's how I played it. He's got, had a prank played on him and he can't reverse it, and he's been trying to make a potion to reverse it. So it's grow. I can't remember the name of the potion. It's not important. But the mentor character is the guy that like we have no fucking idea what to do. We don't know what kind of plan we can make. We don't know what kind of resources. Fuck. You know what? Let's go talk to Baracus, or let's go talk to Willie Stacks, or let's go talk to Slicer X. You know, like these
Slicer
big
X
NPCs.
wasn't much of a mentor. He
I
kind
was
of
gonna
just
say,
killed people.
He led by example, and his example was rampant homicide.
Yeah, it's like, how much blood is on the car? Can you tell what color the paint is underneath it? Then not enough.
Right. I'm not doing my job well.
So the mentor character, these are the guys that I feel are like they're below informants because they serve a lesser function to the story, but they serve a greater function to the player characters. So they're kind of right, like multiplication, division. You do it at the same time, whichever is left or right.
Yeah.
The next one down is the interactor. These are your bartenders, your shop owners, the catty bitch behind the desk at the city, the city's
Walgreens
infrastructure
down the
building. So she's just like, I cannot be bothered with finding your map right now. What the fuck ever. So the interactor, and that's where I usually use this Seven Dwarves method for. And then there's the Gray Blob. These are dudes that are walking down the street. You know, they're not important. You see,
These are the, to use a popular example, it's the guy from Avatar: The Last Airbender of the My Cabbages guy. He's a Gray Blob.
yes,
Like he exists as a part of the background, never to be interacted with.
yeah. Though he's memorable enough.
Absolutely, but he is not to be he very much could be a part of the background and the set dressing.
Yeah.
I have a system very much like that. Not nearly as organized, but with one added detail. So with the mentors, I'll actually limit myself to like 3, and I'll try and keep each mentor categorized to a particular alignment of good, neutral, evil. The good is the Quaddle I mentioned earlier, who is hello or hello, like that guy. The gold dragon would be the neutral one because she cares about the bottom line and is Sundarian as fuck. And then there was a fucking undead demi-lich who was like, yeah, I'm a good guy. No, come hang out with me. Yeah, no, you gotta trust me. No, come on, we're good. Yeah, come on, we'll go do some shit. Yeah, Morty.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. You guys
I remember you talking about this guy from the last time. I think it was episode 1.
I don't have a
of
body.
Playing
You
God.
need to get that Szechuan sauce, Morty.
That's my one-armed man, Morty. I gotta have that sauce, Morty. It's fucking 94 years, Morty. That's why I'm a demi-lich. I gotta find that shit. I'm Demi-Rick! But yeah, his name is the Pink Death, or just called Pinky. And so he's like the runt of the lich fucking crowd. Like, and he just stays as Demi-Lich because he's lazy. Like, yeah, I was sleeping. Like, no, were you trying to conquer something? No, I was sleeping. You got me. Like, okay, well. And so he became a patron or a benefactor, just because he was fucking lazy. But in between that, and I have the villain and like key characters, and like Gray Blobs and like lesser characters. But there's a category, and I actually was inspired by something one of my players said, and an amazing video game series for this. And these characters are called recruitable. And the reason why I created this was because I lost a player. I had 4 players, and it was going great, and there was never any need for an extra NPC. Sometimes if the story demanded it, like it actually had to be that way, they'd tag along. But most times they wouldn't fight. And ever since I lost that player, I've been filling the 4th slot with an NPC. And I've always called these recruitable characters. And I always make it a point to like show something, or even if very bluntly after a particular scene is over, say, this character is recruitable, or like you can find out why. Because I like to keep my shit very similar to video games, because that's the experience my players have. And these are characters that, plainly speaking, help combat, fill a gap in the party, or are just fucking fun for me to play. But they are their own breed. They are as much movers and shakers as, like, if they all grouped up, they'd be movers and shakers the same way the players would, but they just don't have the drive or the clear of conscience or the morality of it. So they basically are untapped potential in the setting. Because if they were themselves as capable as my players and as willing, there'd be no reason to tell the stories of the players.
They'd be overshadowed,
they'd be overshadowed.
Aspects.
Right, correct. But one of the things I'll do is I'll keep these characters pretty neutral. One character is an assassin. He's lawful neutral, and he's really good with a bow, and his code name is Chan because he doesn't give a shit and he doesn't like names. But they'll call upon him. They're like, okay, we need somebody sneaky. We need help with this. Let's go get Chan, And they'll literally, much like, and like I said, inspired by a video game series like Mass Effect, they can recruit, one person. And if they're down another character, like one game they were down, or someone had to call out sick, there were 2 slots open. Basically, I'm filling it to where there's 4. And these are special characters that I know very, very well. I have character sheets for. They gain XP, and all this and that. They are recruitable, but they don't act in a significant way, much like the other characters do in downtime actions. Because if they did, they could do shit.
Yeah.
And they are forces to be acted upon, not to be proactive.
See, I have recruitables in my game, though I'm less forthcoming about, hey, these are recruitables, because I kind of like the mystery behind it myself, because it seems less gamey, and you never know. I kind of like the surprise, too, because both in the D&D game that you guys have played in, both Grizz and Daikatana were both just they were characters that were there to they were just a little bit above gray blobs, and then
and
actually Daikatana straight up was a gray blob, and then he
was a gray blob that man
4 times in one combat, and proceeded to hang out with the party ever since. And they just both started as guys that you were supposed to interact with, maybe not even really once for Daikatana, but maybe 1 or 2 times for Grizz. And then next thing you know, they're good friends of the PCs, and I had not planned any of that, but then they had personalities.
Daikatana was a gray blob that grew a tumor, and then the tumor turned into a katana, and then the katana became possessed by the devil, and then that gray blob hung on for dear life as his character sheet was written around him.
Hell yeah.
The unfortunate reason as to why I have to be so forthcoming about whether or not something is recruitable is because it's so extremely rare, and it's such a mechanic that's so seldomly used that if I didn't mention it, wouldn't be used, and then they'd forget it.
I guess I don't have much of that problem in my games because my favorite trope, and that's the Gondor calls for aid trope. So if I have a lot of characters that you could pull from that have certain assets or abilities, or other things that make you need them at some point in time, and you call them all in at the same time, you get the lineup, and get the big meat when even the NPCs are like, who the hell are you? And it's like, well, I'm this guy, and it's like, oh shit, I've heard about you.
Yeah.
That's always a great episode. It always is. I really like those things. Like, King McFire, we need your help to go and free this homeboy of ours. What, really? Okay, cool. King McFire is going to go do that for you because he's your homie and you got drunk with him and then ended up in jail.
That's such bullshit.
Yes, Jesse Kenton ended up in jail.
He went on a teleportation bender and
That doesn't surprise me.
ended up in jail with Mara.
No, was this about the dress? Or was this after I
No,
left?
this
was
is
after
after
that.
that. This was during
You guys
like a
are fucking-
downtime section right after you left, where Kenton and Mara decided that they were going to teleport around all of the country, and then ended up in Steel Reach, where King McFire is king, and got so drunk that they ended up in a cathedral, breaking things, and then Mara was mending those broken things. And then they woke up in jail.
Jesus.
That
Yeah,
was pretty batshit insane.
this was great.
I
It was great.
I don't know if I told you guys the story, but this is slightly related to this, and this actually is a way that I introduced and this is something I very rarely see, is actual divinity into the game as an NPC. It was New Year. It was the first. It was actually earlier this year. It was the game right after New Year, or of the Chinese New Year, and I decided this the actual Chinese New Year, because I'm doing Tales of the Orient. It's gonna be the Year of the Monkey, and motherfucking Sun Wukong himself is gonna throw a parade for himself and make 1 billion copies of himself and just go running through the streets of this big city, because they were in what equates to the New York City of the setting. And a few days after this parade, my players with downtimes got so terribly drunk that they were supposed to go to jail because they rolled on the carousing table and fucked up hard.
I love that
but,
table. It is so great.
It's awesome. It's the most fun thing ever. But because of, I asked them, like, all right, how do you do it? What do you want to try and do? If you had your way and you weren't totally drunk, what would you do? And they described in such a way, and like we're so anti-establishment that the god, he's a god in the setting, the trickster god, Sun Wukong, showed up and was like, holy shit, I want whatever you guys are having. We're partying. And then he like fucking pulled the ripcord on this sick ass party and like took it through time and space. And then was like, man, you guys are sick. That was awesome. You guys are like, you drink a lot for mortals. I'm concerned. He's like, I'm concerned.
You're not gonna die.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, you're supposed to be dead. And from that, they actually got a favor from Sun Wukong, and they used it to circumvent plot. They called in the favor. They're like, no. It was great though, because I hadn't even thought of it. They had to fight an aboleth, and they're like, hey, Sun Wukong, can you just come do this for me? He's like, are we gonna party afterwards? I was like, yeah. All right, cool.
All right, it's dead. Let's go.
Dead, done. I'm a god. Let's go.
That's awesome.
Yeah. No, drinking that fucking carousing table is the best.
It really is.
That's what they rolled on after their teleportation bender.
Yeah.
They
I had
got arrested.
Dumbasses.
I actually had a few NPCs in my game that did rolls on the carousing table, and the next time the characters come across those NPCs, are going to find out what happened to them. You know, that's a good way to create some life too. Use that damn carousing table. That's great stuff.
I actually I rolled a check on that carousing table when one of my players had nothing better to do for downtimes and decided to go carousing with one of the NPCs. And because there is an element of sexuality in my game, and it landed on you have a whirlwind romance, and it tells you how it ends. They landed on that, and I'm like, okay, you guys are gonna drunk bang. You know, if you're cool with this happening in play, because it's such a touchy subject, anyone can veto it at any given time. I go for the Exalted Second Edition rule, which is to say my character just isn't sexual ever, period, the end. But everyone is fun, and we all trust everybody. And so they came out of that not with like, oh man, we're in jail, but like, dude, did we fuck? Yeah. Fuck! What the hell, man? I don't know! I'm sorry? Don't apologize! And so there was this great fucking character development between a player character and this NPC, and he was a recruitable character, and like, I was gonna be cool on having him around for a little while. And then he came back and was like, hey, are we cool? Like, yeah, we're cool. As a general note, I will say having sexuality as an actual element of one's game is extremely difficult.
I don't have it for like any of my games, really.
Right. And is an element where you have to be very comfortable with everybody at the table. Everybody. Like, everyone's hang-ups. It's very difficult to pull off, but I'm very glad I can do it. Just because it's, you know, like I said, it adds another element to the game. And it helps the world feel more real. It helps it feel more Game of Thrones to me. But it's extremely difficult, and definitely something you need to flesh out with your players before you even try.
Right, but yeah, that kind of goes to a like always talk to your players beforehand, because like some people might be more comfortable with like having it, but more of a fade to black scenario where it's like, okay, you did it, it's done, and similarly,
and see,
extreme violence, like people might shy away from that too.
That was actually I don't know if you remember, but when Kenton and Mara were doing the business at the jacuzzi, Marissa and I, being so completely Marissa's one of the players in my game, so used to pretty open, casual, descriptive sexuality, we were just kind of like, all right, we're going to go over here. We're going to go busy ourselves while you guys act out whatever the fuck you guys are going to do. And like to us, it was like, whatever. But yeah, great, you finally did it. Jesus Christ, we've been waiting.
Yeah, Kenton has been a virgin this whole time.
Finally, thank God, you guys did it. Get it over with. And but then it was a fade to black, which we're like, oh right, yeah. And it depends on the players and the GM, and you know, there's shit that even if the players want to do, that the GM doesn't want to do.
Yeah,
like
that was my I want to get out of this scenario.
Right,
button.
Exactly. Okay.
I don't want to describe sexy times.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. Let's get to the part where the whole village burns down.
Let's get to the part with Daikatana.
Yep. The day Daikatana became a player character is the same day Kenton lost his virginity. So his character levels are in direct proportion to Kenton's sexuality levels.
The day one sword was sheathed and another was unsheathed.
Oh, Jesus.
There you go. You're welcome for that.
And one more thing before we kind of round this all out and close for the day is I was just thinking of this, and it's sometimes you gotta have NPCs catered specifically to certain characters.
Definitely. I agree completely.
Because you could still use the classifications we talked about. Like, I'm going to use the mentor one that Xander brought up. Like, mentors that are specific to certain characters make that interaction much more personal. Instead of like, hey, this one guy mentors the entire party. It's this one guy you've known most of your life, and even though he can interact with the party, then it's more meaningful to your character, and so the primary focus is going to be your conversations.
Yeah, which it's one of those things you got to try and be mindful of. Like the last game that I ran, I'm actually guilty of not remembering to do stuff like that because Baracus, the NPC that is sort of one of the mentors to the party, is a really kind of like really close with one of the player characters.
Yeah, he's like a father figure to my character.
Yeah, and I had actually forgotten about that. So, yeah, we're not infallible.
No, by any means.
That leads a lot of opportunities for great role play and for character interaction from an NPC standpoint, rather than just a PC standpoint. But yeah, remember that. Use your NPCs. They're there for a reason.
Yeah, and
don't forget.
Don't feel like you have to bite off more than you can chew. Like if you got to be comfortable, like with a certain thing, like maybe only use a handful of tropes or something like that, and work your way to bigger and bigger things, then you do that. Otherwise, you're going to stumble over yourself. You're not going to have fun.
Oh yeah, totally.
And that's another thing. Like I rarely, and it's gotten to the point where my players know it now, and they're very considerate about it. I will not have two significant characters NPCs in the room at the same time because I can't roleplay both of them and do them justice. Like I can have gray blobs and lesser NPCs and maybe a recruitable, but like if I have like 5 big name characters in a room, only one of them is going to be the center because if I'll overshadow everyone because there's only 3 players, and so it like Nick said, don't bite off more than you can chew. And if you can't run 2 NPCs at the same time, don't. Build it around so that you don't have to.
There's always a simple excuse to get somebody out of the room. In modern settings, it's real easy because it's like, oh, I need to pee, and then
I gotta go to the bathroom.
You leave to go to the bathroom, and then you don't want to switch.
And then you
NPCs
flush yourself
out
down the
constantly
toilet
like that, and then you hear the flush, and then the other NPC is like, okay, I just realized I need to go to the bathroom. And then they go off, and you switch back and forth. It's like, do you have a problem? Do you need to see the doctor?
you either flush yourself down the toilet and get away with the murder, or you summon a spirit.
That was a gruesome scene. Speaking of hyper-violence in tabletop games.
Jesus.
That's a tale for another time. For tonight, though, we are going to wrap it up.
So I've actually got one little quick question, if you don't mind humoring me before we wrap up.
Yeah, sure.
What are your 2 favorite characters to play? Like your favorite NPCs? Like who's been world class favorite character? Let's gush about him for just a quick second, because we've all got a character we love a lot.
Ooh, just one. Ooh, there's so many that I've
just
made.
pick one. Pick one. Gush about him. Oh, so I'll start with mine.
Yeah, you start. I'll come with something.
Is actually a character I mentioned earlier is Sun Wukong. The reason why I have so much fun, and for those of you who aren't familiar, is Sun Wukong is one of the characters from Journey to the West, which is an old Chinese novel of sorts. It was basically it was the first ever TV show because it had like episodic releases of books and chapters and all this stuff and real cast and crew. And Sun Wukong was the warrior monk who was the follower of the scholar and friend of Bai Jing, the gluttonous pig, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Journey to the West, it's amazing, read it. There's so much of it, fucking whatever. But in a lot of lore, he's, a lot of fictional settings, he's seen as a trickster god. The reason why I like playing him so much is because he just has this, like, unending love of life and his Naruto-esque ability of cloning himself on a whim. So there will be times when he will just fuck with the party, and 5 of him will show up, and, like, half of them will be in disguise, and one will say, hey, who are these people that are hanging out? I'm like, what people? I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, no, a surprise, it's me. And then one pulls off there's like, or he'll begin playing, card games with himself in the corner to keep himself busy because he's bored. Or like, because he's so super strong, one time he was just bored out of his mind waiting for the players to do something. He, like, created a series of benches out of his eyelashes and then cloned himself 15 times and then bench pressed them, and then everyone on the benches, like, was waving like a bunch of cheerleaders while they were fighting this big bad boss. Like, that's what he did. So he helped them with the aboleth, but, like, for the first few rounds of combat, he just rooted them on by bench pressing benches of himself that were cheering for them.
That's kind of awesome.
Yeah, it's hilarious, and it's fun, and it's funny, and it's light, and it was this very intense scene, but it was made much differently with this character, and I fucking love playing him, but I never bring him out. I've had him interact twice, once with the actual hangover bit, and then once with that fight, because he's a god. He's not supposed to be a main character.
You don't need
and
to
he's not
see him
recruitable
every day.
Right, and he is not recruitable by any sense of the means, but that's what makes him special. But I adore playing that character. He is so much fun.
Okay, so
Xander,
I've been thinking
Nick, what about you?
about all of the characters because I've run more games than I've played, and there are just so many to sort through. But I've narrowed it down to like 3 of them at this point. One of them.
Because I feel like I know who you're going to say.
Who do you think I'm going to say?
Well, let me hear
okay, so
the ones you're going to say.
two of them are real interesting in terms of how they developed as characters and whatnot. The first one I mentioned earlier, Mr. Johnson, aka Mr. E, when he turned into a
Mr.
DJ.
E.
Because he
Yeah,
started
he
out
was cool.
as like this super serious, just straight mission-giving Johnson that met you in skeezy
Yep.
places and gave you your mission. But
And
then
then became
after many games,
one of the
he wanted out. So one of the missions was he hires you to help him get out of the corporation, and
Yeah.
then like became a tentative ally for a while, and then
Then became one of the sickest indie electronic artists in the world.
exactly. So like he was super fun to play because he had pretty much all the traits we talked about throughout this episode. The another one that followed, I mean, it wasn't really a similar arc, but Nadash L1, aka just L.
L, yeah.
Oh.
He was great because he was super fun to play. He had the distinctive voice. I could put it. He was super relevant to the story. It was real easy to get in character, and he was really stylish with what he did. And he even came on missions, so he's fun to play, like mechanically every once in a while. But then there for the comedy aspect, because I love me some comedy in my games, is the
funny stuff.
dimensional spanning character that will inevitably show up in any one of my games. It doesn't matter if it's D&D or Shadowrun or anything. And it's me, Deckard Cain.
Okay. Yeah.
He's oh god.
Stay a while and listen.
Hey, stay a while and tell me about your shit or whatever.
Motherfucker.
The way more
Hey, I'm
Cain.
gonna steal your car. No, don't steal my car. What do you got to drink here?
Where are your keys?
I'm in your car. Peace,
Give me your
bitch.
keys.
Oh, that's right. It's linked to your phone. I'm gonna hack your phone from here. Later, bitch. Yep.
Just aggressively
favorite
vulgar
NPCs.
old man.
So, Nick, I was gonna say it was gonna be Big Jeffrey.
Big Jeffrey got on my list, but
Yep.
since he became a PC and got a lot more fleshed out, I didn't really end up picking him. But he was so much fun to play because he had the voice.
Oh yeah.
He had the pet basilisk Roscoe. Don't try to pet him; he'll bite you.
Don't pet him. Only one person pet him. One person, save for Big Jeffrey himself, and she got stabbed through the heart.
Yep. Yeah, I had to roll the most
I'm gonna
amazing
roll
animal handling check in order to just pet Roscoe.
What's that? 5 successes? I pet the shit out of that basilisk.
So yeah, I'd have to go with 4 of them because I can't narrow it down to 1.
All right, Xander, what about you?
I have 2 NPCs. They're part of the world that I'm actually in the process of running right now. I've kind of came into new places where my NPCs are here recently, so I like these guys. The first one is a character called Aaron Horsch. He is referred to by one of the player characters as Horshy. He is a blind monk that is part of the underground crime syndicate known as the Scarlet Web. And his voice is a vulgar mixture of the Vulture from Saturday morning cartoons, and not the Vulture, the chicken. I say it, that guy.
Foghorn
so he's
Leghorn?
like, Foghorn Leghorn. There you go. Yeah, Foghorn Leghorn.
Chicken. The chicken from
The
Saturday
chicken.
mornings.
I say, you need to get your shit
Boy, I'm not a
straight,
chicken,
son.
I'm a chicken hawk.
Yeah,
I say, boy, I'm a chicken hawk. God damn it!
I tell you, Padfoot, you need to go down into that necropolis, and you gotta go and kill yourself some of them skeletons. There's gonna be a lot of them, and you just gotta fucking kill them all.
This sounds like less racist Uncle Ruckus. Now, gotta go and get them uppity skeletons over there.
Kind of.
You don't want to be fucking around with them uppity skeletons over there now.
So he's a lot of fun to play. He's only appeared twice. Once in the backstory game of one character, and actually no, twice in a couple of one shots. But he's a lot of fun to play. And my second favorite, and he's made a lot more appearances, especially here recently. He made one. His name is Simeon. He is an absolutely insane high-level wizard. Like this guy was like really like prolongedly exposed to leyline energy, and he was exposed for so long that he lost his grip on like reality. And he's the craziest guy.
He's batshit insane.
He's batshit insane. Like it's great. It's absolutely fun. And he's got a great voice to go to.
Does he sound like No Bark Noonan?
Dude,
no,
he doesn't, but I now wish he did.
Yeah, because I'm like, I saw a giant orc with a blunderbuss what fired from a backpack.
Yeah, no, he's not No Bark, but
down to the ground.
I'm gonna have to remember that now. But no,
Yeah,
he's like
the No Bark Noonan voice is the best.
Yeah, he's kind of insane. He's got one of the greatest voices, though.
Well, let's hear it. Give me an example.
Oh, you want an example? Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So,
Hi, I'm a level 2 adventurer here to talk to Mr. Simon. Hi, hello.
well, hello there.
Hi, are you Simon?
Yes, I'm Simon.
You need
What
to
can I do for you?
Oh my
What?
God! First, I need you to chill.
What?
He won't
Chill.
ever chill.
What do you mean, chill? Like something needs to be cold?
Relax. No.
Okay.
Wow, he does sound insane. Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
Okay.
I told him about a painting, and he fled the city.
I like that. All right. That's fun. I gotta try that. I gotta try the varying like warbling like.
He's very heavily inspired by one of Matt Mercer's NPCs from Critical Role. So, yeah, he's a black powder salesman. Victor.
What? What? Oh, I thought you were saying this character, Simeon, is a fucking black powder salesman. I'm like, that's terrible. No.
Oh, no. Matt Mercer's NPC. He's inspired by him. Yeah, he's completely batshit insane.
I keep hearing stuff about a Critical Role, but I just don't.
Yeah, I just don't either. Like, I always hear about it, but it's just not interesting to me.
Yep.
Maybe it's because
For
it takes
each
too
their-
long.
Yeah.
It's probably good. It's probably really good. But
Well, what I would suggest is to go on YouTube and just search Critical Role animated, and just watch the little animated clips of them doing ridiculous shit. And
see, that's the thing
enough.
is I tried watching Harmon Quest when the cast of Harmontown played D&D, and I didn't even like that. Like because
I
that's
would just rather be doing that stuff than watching it.
right, exactly.
That's true.
I'd rather be doing that. I'd rather be writing my stuff. I'd rather be playing it. All that. And we could get into a whole discussion as to why I don't think people should listen to things like Critical Role or even though they're really great. But that's a horse of a different color.
That's right.
Yeah.
And tonight we are out of time. So, without further ado, adieu.
Adieu.
Bye. We speak America here, motherfucker.